It's up there.
No, it's
No, it is not wrap.
D is discount rate, I know that.
D is discount rate. Evan knows one thing. Chuckle, it's great to see you.
Say no.
I'm a big believer in it's better to ask for forgiveness. I'm a big believer. Jake, drills up there. Let's go.
Sorry.
Is there a reason you're late? What test?
Computer science.
Did you get everything right?
Honestly.
No. Okay, go sit down. All right, Robbie, give me one of the shifters of the money supply curve. Reserve requirement. Jake, give me another. Kind of open market operations, buying or selling bonds. So we got reserve requirement, open market operation. D is discount rate. Okay, we're gonna go into all of these in more depth today. Jack, could you give me a shift of the LRAS code?
I said changing resources like an increased integration.
Yeah, change the quantity and quality of resources. Technology. Now, I'm gonna put two more kind of capital stock. And I'm gonna say human resources, which is resources, but sometimes they ask human resources and capital stock. Capital stock being like equipment, factories, things that make things. Okay? Yeah. And they're really, both of those are quantity or quality of resources. I just see on the FRQs, they refer to human resources and capital stocks. I want you to be familiar. All right. Who's in charge of prayer? Nick, let's go. Nick. Nick.
Father God, I just want to thank you for another wonderful week. We got Friday. I love economics, and I hope we absolutely crush this unit out of the park. St. John Baptist South.
Pray for us. Bart, I got to admit, I'm not a truly holy man, but I think I know you shouldn't lie to God. I love economics.
I love it now.
Okay. Barrett. All right. Today, we're going to look at, and we kind of touched on three factors that change the limited reserve system. We'll talk about the impact of the money, and we'll get to do some practice problems. One practice problem, a little difficult, Ryan. We'll see how sharp you are today. All right. You could, this is on yesterday's notes, but you could just flip on the back of your notes if you have an empty spot. It's right about the fractional reserve. Okay. All that means is your money is getting lent out. So if Oliver puts in $100 to the bank, the bank is holding 10 and lending out 90, okay?
Where is it on this?
I thought it was on yesterday, but it's not. No?
I'm looking.
No?
It doesn't look like it.
Okay, so just put on the back of today.
Not studied.
All right, so when banks hold a small portion of deposits, again, it's fractional. So the idea is that if they're holding 10% of the deposits, they're holding enough, so when you come to the bank to ask for your $50, they have $50 there. Now, in truth, say like Jack had $50,000 in the bank, he cannot go and get his money that day. If he wants 50,000, he probably has to call the bank up and give them 24, 48 hours notice. Okay? I once tried to do that. I went, it was like when I worked in Domino's, I went in shorts and like, they just weren't going to give me a lot of money.
If you want to take that much out.
I was opening up another store. All right, if we all banked at the same bank and if we all went for the money at the same time, what would happen? Bennett? Yeah, they couldn't get it. It'd be like a run on the bank. The banks, like, they wouldn't have the money. Now, the one thing now is your money's guaranteed by the Fed, and they probably would have your money in a day or two. All right, so we're going to talk about the rod, the three things that shift money supply. Okay, so that's, all right, so we're looking at the three things. So the reserve requirement, and I kind of touched on that, it's this percentage that you have to hold. All right, so the reserve requirement is the Fed tells you what percent you have to hold. All right, now, yes,
You mean like the bank?
the bank, yes, sorry. Yes. So the Fed might say banks have to hold 10%. All right, now again, this is in what we call a limited reserve system, what the United States had prior probably to 2008, which we no longer have anymore. We'll learn about what we have Monday. All right, so these loans can't. So if Bradley puts in $1,000 and I have to hold 100 in the required reserves, I cannot lend out. The 900 extra is what we call excess reserves that I can lend out. Okay. All right, that increases. And this is kind of saying banks keep some of the money in reserve and they loan out their excess reserve. All right. And the blue we'll talk about in a second, Mike, because I'm going to talk to you about the money multiplier. All right. You good, Charles?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here's the money. Here's how the money multiplier works. So we're going to say the reserve ratio is 10%. Someone goes to the bank and they deposit 1,000. So that bank holds 100 in required reserves, and now it has 900 in excess. It loans it to someone else. All right, so that bank lends the 900 to Bob. All right, now Bob is like, has a business. He puts the 900 in his business account. The bank then, Bob's bank holds 90, loans out 810 to Jill. Jill deposits 810 in her bank. and there it goes on. So in this short scenario, $1,000 deposit created 1710 in money. All right, so that's just kind of how the money multiplier works. It depends on banks loaning out money and people putting their money in the bank. Like if you don't put your money in the bank, they can't lend it out. Okay, so they try, and how a bank works is Charles puts $1,000 in my bank, I pay him 1% interest, and I loan it to Oliver for 3. So Oliver's paying me 3, I'm paying Charles 1, I get 2% interest. I'm doing okay. Because they might write checks off that, do you know what I mean? They might use it for their business. But once that money gets into the bank, like, then the bank's loaning it out. All right, here is your money multiplier. It's 1 over the reserve requirement. Easy, 1 over the reserve requirement. Not a lot to fool around with. All right, Austin, so if the reserve requirement is 0.2, what is the multiplier?
5.
And if someone deposits 4 million, then the money supply increases by 20 million, okay? You're on your way to being an investment banker. It's okay that you don't know how to program computers. You don't need that.
I lost like 1,500 in stock.
Oh, okay. That's it. All right. Now. All right, Jake. If there is a recession, first, Jake, if there is a recession, do we want to shift to AD right or left? Right. Okay. Now, if we want to shift AD right, Jake, do you have a question? What do we want to do with money supply? Increase money supply or decrease? Here's the money supply graph. Would we want to shift it this way and increase money supply, or would we want to decrease it?
Increase.
Increase. All right, so if there's a recession, Jake, what should the Fed do to the reserve requirement? Raise it or lower it?
Lower.
Good job. Okay, so if they lower the reserve requirements, banks have more money to lend out. So they decrease the reserve ratio, like Jake said. Banks hold less money. Therefore, now when Austin deposits 100, instead of loaning out 90, I can loan out 95. Money supply increases, interest rates fall, as we can see when Jake said that over here. Interest rates fall, AD to the right. Okay. And then, of course, Brad, the opposite's going to happen, right? If there's inflation, what do we want to do to the reserve requirement? We want to raise it, okay? Banks hold on to more money, less money to lend out, create less money supply decreases. Interest rates up, okay? Any questions on that? Chuck?
No,
You sure?
I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Does anyone still need this? Okay. It's humorous watching Mike and Chuckles switch sides to try to see the screen. I know. I understand Chuckles. You guys good? Okay. All right. Here we go, discount rate. The discount rate is the interest rate that the Fed charges commercial banks. All right, so that like, if a bank needs money, they go to the Fed and the Fed charges them an interest rate, all right? That they call it the discount rate. Now, Oliver, if the Fed is trying to increase the money supply, what do you think they should do to the discount rate? Lower it or raise it?
They should lower it.
They should lower it, okay? And if the Fed lowers the discount rate, banks are going to want to borrow money from the Fed, bringing money into the system, okay? And then obviously to decrease, okay? So if they want a tight, and tight is like contractionary, and easy is expansionary. So if they want to increase the money supply, we decrease the discount rate. And if we want to tighten it up, we increase the discount rate. Good job, Oliver. So we've got the end of broad. We've got the reserve ratio and we've got the discount rate. Next thing is open market operation. Easy money is when you're expanding. When you're trying to shift AD right. Yeah. We're good? Did you say no?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, open market operation is buying or selling bonds. It is what the Fed does the most. It is what students get confused the most on. All right. I'm going to try to give you an easy way to think about it. So it's the Fed selling bonds to banks or the public. Okay. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. Day one should always be a Monday. Day six should always be a Monday. Day one, it sounds like the week starts, you know what I mean? Yeah, no, no. All right, Jack, I'm the Fed, you're at the bank. If we're trying to increase the money supply, should the Fed sell a government securities or just bonds? Should we sell, should the Fed should I sell bonds to the bank? Or should I buy bonds from the bank? So let's think about it. I'm the Fed. If I sell you the bank bonds, what are you giving me?
Oh, so we can buy.
Right. Okay. So the Fed wants to buy because the banks are selling bonds. I'm giving them. So here's my little kind of acronym. Buy, boom. When the Fed's buying, the economy booms. All right. And the reason is money supply increases, like Jack just said, interest rates are down, investment increases, AD right. Buy, boom. Okay. Now, on the other hand, Brian is the bank and I'm the Fed, if I'm trying to tighten up and get AD to shift left, I sell bonds, right? If the Fed sells, Evan, what are the banks going to give the Fed for the bonds?
Interest.
I'm selling you something. What are you going to give me? Yeah. So the cash gets sucked out of the system. So sell stock. So the economy sucks. All right, AD left. So the Fed is sucking the money out of the system and the economy goes downhill. Okay. So those are your three, those are the only three things that could shift MS, right? Reserve ratio, open market operations, discount rate.
The discount rate goes down for when supply to ship out, right?
Correct. And just think about, the banks want to borrow more or less money. If the interest rates are down, banks want to borrow more. Do you have a hand up?
So they're just like the long run, but they shift. Like the long run.
No, that's just separate, MS. Just a separate graph. This is just the money supply graph. And I'll show you like this 3-step one in a second. Buy boom, sell suck. There we go. All right, now, there's this thing, the federal funds rate, that really has nothing to do with the Fed. It's banks loan, the federal funds rate is when banks loan each other money. So it's a bank-to-bank loan. All right, so it's when banks charge one another for a one-day loan. Now, the discount rate, the interest rate, the federal funds rate, they all move together. So when you see federal funds rate, just think of the discount rate and the interest rates. Don't. But by definition, you have to know it's banks charging one another. All right, so the discount rate is the interest rate the Feds charge banks. The federal funds rate is the interest rate banks charge each other. Could get confusing, Kyle. Could get confusing. Okay, here is the 3-step graph. Now, Alex, do I think they'll ever ask you to graph this Keynes 3-step graph? No, but I do think if you master it, it makes this unit really, really easy. So, Bennett, are you there? There you are. Bennett, the Fed sells bonds. What's going to happen to money supply? Okay, so let's see, could I do that? So money supply decreases. If I take this line straight across, it tells me investment is down. I don't have to think. Investment down. If investment's down, I know, Evan, what's going to happen to AD? Yeah, okay. So it makes it very easy for me to just go from step to step to step and realize, all right, AD left. Tight money policy, contractionary. Any questions on that? All right. I got to go the other way because one year I didn't go the other way. The kid didn't know we could go the other way. Kyle, Fed buys bonds, buy boom. Which way is money supply going? Money supply is going right. Good job. All right. I then just I go right. I take this line across. I know investment's up. I know if investment's up, aggregate demand's going right. Life's easy. Chuckles, you okay?
I didn't get all the definitions of those.
It would be my pleasure, Chuckles.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
You good? Are you good, Chuckles?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a pleasure doing business with you. All right. Quick, with the person next to you or around you, go over these like 4 things, give you a minute. All right. Anything you or your partner did not know, did not feel good about? Last one?
Luca didn't know like the last three.
Okay, we'll help Luca out in a second. To find the reserve ratio, you take the required reserves over the deposits of 10,000 over 100,000, we give you a 10. Okay, Luca? Contractionary monetary policy. I would, let's go through it. Rod, raise the reserve requirement. Sell stock, right? So I'm gonna sell, Fed's gonna sell bonds, and raise the discount rate. Here, I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna lower the reserve requirement, I'm gonna buy bonds, and I'm gonna lower the discount rate. I don't know what this is here for, it's just to. Okay, quick multiplier practice, give you 3 number ones, give you like a minute or 2 minutes to do that. Yeah. Justin, what do you have for number 1? First, Justin, what's the multiplier? Okay, 1 over 0.5 is 2. So what's gonna happen to money supply? Okay, right, sell suck, we're sucking the money out. 2 times 10, 20 million. Okay. Barrett, do you have number 2? What's the money multiplier?
It's 1/.1.
Which is, all right,
The money supply will increase by 100 million.
by 100 million, right? 10 times 10 is 100. By boom, money supply is increased. Okay. Alex, what do you have for number 3?
It's gonna go from 2 to 5.
So it's gonna increase, right? Okay, any questions on those? Boards? Boards, let's do some boards. All right. We are starting with a difficult question, so think. All right, which of the following is most likely to occur if the Federal Reserve engages in open market operations to reduce inflation. All right, if I'm reducing inflation, which way do I want AD to go? Left, right? Correct? Go, give you a minute. You need a marker, Charlie?
No, I have a marker. Oliver was being very stingy.
Okay. All right, let's focus, see how we do here. Every letter was picked. All right, boards. I've got A's, I've got Carolines, I've got broccoli. Do I have any dogwoods? No?
That was your wrong answer.
All right. All right, decrease in interest rates gonna do what for the money supply?
Increase.
Increase it, money supply increases, AD right, so, okay. Decrease in government deficit, that's not gonna change AD right or left. So it's B as in broccoli. Now, I want to explain why B is the answer. Luca, you're the bank, I'm the Fed. I sell you bonds. What are you giving me? And that comes out of your excess reserves.
Wait, but I thought with the, if you decrease the reserve, then there's more money.
No, you're thinking of the reserve ratio. All right, this is, right, someone deposited 1,000. You put 100 in required reserves, you had 900 in excess. So now I sold you a $900 bond. You gave me this. So now you have 0 excess reserves. Okay? Does that make sense? Ken? Okay, what, keep going, so talk to me.
I mean, can you just repeat what you said?
Yeah. All right. You have, someone deposits 1,000. You put 100 in required, and then you have this 900 that you could loan out to do whatever you. Instead of loaning it out, you buy a $900 bond from the Fed. So now you don't have this 900 to loan out anymore, and the multiplier can't work. So the Fed sucked money out of the system. So that's a decrease in your reserves. Okay? Does anyone else have a question on this? All right. When the Federal Reserve, which Federal Reserve action could shift the aggregate demand curve to the left? Look through your notes. Trying to contract the economy. All right. You got something there?
Yeah.
All right, boys, I have dogwoods going crazy. It's all dogwood. All right. Now. One of the things, like. The Fan Brothers, okay. One of the things, like, the test taking. Is B and E are automatically knocked out, right? Because those are fiscal policies. So a lot of times what they're gonna do is, like they could have raising income taxes. That will shift aggregate demand to the left, but it's not something the Fed could do. Okay, so be aware of that.
Why couldn't they, why couldn't?
Because the Fed is not in charge of taxes and government spending.
That's fiscal.
That's fiscal. Okay.
This is fine.
All right, and then here's just the graph. Interest rates up, discount, AD left. All right, here we go. Which of the following sequences of events would occur if the Federal Reserve implemented contractionary monetary policy? So you're looking for contractionary monetary policy. A lot of checks, man, a lot of.
I don't want to, I hate it. It's so late. Yeah.
All right, boards, please. I got a lot of alpha. Okay. Jack just picked alpha because he didn't want to read broccoli. All right, interest rates up, investment and consumption down, aggregate demand left. When the economy is operating below full employment of output. All right, if we're below full employment, what type of gap? Okay, an appropriate monetary policy would be. Yes. What is that? Okay. All right, what do we got on our boards? I got some dogwoods, alphas, Ellen. All right, guys. Charles. That's Charles. Charles, someone had E as an Ellen. Could you explain? Because government expense and increase would shift AD right. Why is E not the correct answer?
Because the Fed not do that.
Yeah, this is fiscal policy. All right, one last one for the day. The Federal Reserve decreases the federal funds rate by. I'll just tell you, it's they do it by buying government bonds. Okay. All right. Well, no, because there was other correct answers to lower it. All right, have a great weekend. Put your slip in the box, please. Give me some. Like, ask some good questions.
Even read like 4 sentences.
I don't have any plans,
I don't have any complaints. I like.
It's just like everybody's better.
It's what?